Everyone, it's V Spear here, the host of Under the Desk News on TikTok, taking complicated, often politicized issues and breaking them down into easy to understand truths. I am absolutely thrilled to be talking with two of my friends and colleagues, Dr. Nancy Lynn and Corrine Colin, about one of my favorite topics, holiday foods. Now, holiday favorites have gotten a bad rap, and they can come with a lot of shame talk, like when your aunt takes a scoop of mashed potatoes and then utters that dreaded phrase, "I'm going to be bad." What we often miss when focusing on dietary restrictions are dietary optimizations. So all three of us have programs that address the impacts of food on both your physical and mental health. And in fact, we work together on a solution called Food Pharmacy and the Vitameter, which we will dive into more later. But what we're going to talk about first today is how holiday foods rich with micronutrients can supply and can fuel a happy, healthy season of eating. And we're going to give you some tips for feeling and eating your best while traveling. We'll talk about how focusing on micronutrients, literally just fruits and vegetables, nothing fancy. We're not going to talk about supplements or fad diets or what you can't have, literally just the whole foods that you can find everywhere, from 7-Eleven to your corporate holiday party to your mom's dinner table and everywhere in between, because these foods are the ones that can unlock physical and mental health through food. Again, this is not going to be anything that you probably haven't heard before. We're just going to break it down into a way that makes most sense and helps you feel your best through the holiday season. I do want to warn you, we got over 70 questions, and that was in addition to all the questions that I was curious about and had pre-written out for them. So it's going to feel a little bit more like a lightning round. We're going to try to get you as many answers as possible, and this video will be available to rewatch online directly following. So quick little stage setting questions. Dr. Nancy Lynn, a holistic nutritionist, author, fitness coach, expert 7-Eleven shopper. Nancy, before we get to the dinner table, talk to me about food on the road. You work with truckers and travelers to craft a list of healthy foods that folks can be looking for to feel great while traveling, even at truck stops. Can you tell me a little about that?
Absolutely. So glad to be here. Good to see you, V. We are in a hurry, right? There's a lot of demands on us at all times. So we don't really have the time all the time to make sure that we meal prep and make sure that they're in cute little containers. So when we're on the go, especially at a quick stop or 7-Eleven, what are the healthiest things? We want to make sure we eat from whole foods as much as possible. And I'm so proud of 7-Eleven and a lot of these quick stops. They have really prepared their shoppers with whole foods like fruits and a lot of vegetables too. You walk in there, you can grab your apples and your bananas. It's right there next to the donuts. So just divert your eyes and go to what is colorful and what is alive. They also have a lot of nuts. Go for ones that are raw, not ones heavily laden in sodium or covered in honey. But you can see that they have a lot of these really good for you nuts and berries, and they do have these seeds. They have these things, but you have to kind of know what to look for. Other great sources are lean proteins. Eggs, they have hard-boiled eggs in little packages. You can grab those. So those are probably going to be your top things that you want to grab. Stay away from the donuts. They are freshly baked, but just stay away from them and go for what's colorful, what's alive, and what's ready for you right next to the cash register.
And don't forget water, of course, as well. I remember when we did this a couple of weeks ago, you have to drink a lot of water. And oftentimes it's an emotional thing, right? We're going home, we're stressed out. We have certain things that we love to have on a road trip. But like you said before, you're not looking necessarily for Doritos, you're looking for crunch. So think about what texture you want. You're not necessarily looking for a donut, you're looking for something a little sweet. Maybe I want some fruit or something that's going to keep me going, or maybe I'm feeling a little low energy, or I'm getting a little like bored in the car. Okay, maybe a little protein time. So thinking about the feeling you want to have, the experience you want to have with the food over, well, I always get Doritos when I get on the road, so that's just what I'm going to do. And that was really helpful to me.
Oh, good. And you know what's really healthy is if you just get some nuts and you put a little bit of protein powder on them, then they're like lightly coated with this chocolatey flavor, and you have that catastrophic boom, that crunch that we all really want, and it's something sweet, and it'll stabilize your blood sugar.
Talking about stabilizing your blood sugar and staying with you for a second here, there are some, when we're on these long road trips, flying up in the air, wherever we're going, there is a lot of ailments that can come from not hitting your micronutrients on the road. Can you talk a little bit about like how this can really negatively affect you if you're not getting enough food on the road?
Yes. We can get really hangry. We can start really feeling the energy and the fatigue set in. And we're driving, and a lot of times it's long distance, right? And we don't want to be falling asleep at the wheel. We get really hungry and we just kind of just give in and maybe go and make some food choices that aren't really good for us. So we want to make sure that we are satiated and prepared. So you have to kind of do a little bit of preparation. But when you go and have food choices, make sure that it's protein that will keep you satiated for longer periods of time. And there are different varieties of protein. Like I said, again, the eggs are really great, lean sources of protein. You can always choose with nuts as well. So that will help keep you satiated, and just make sure that you are timing your meals and you're not going way too many hours in between without eating, because your hormones, your circadian rhythm, everything is affected, especially your energy and then your mood. And no one wants to be around you at any table when you're not really nice because you didn't eat the right types of food to get you to where you want to be.
Very true. It's not going to make tolerating all the family obligations any better if we're hungry. And I know some folks are also worried. Sometimes they're like, oh, but is it really fresh? Where is it coming in from? These foods come in from commissary kitchens that are local. They are prepped by professional chefs in healthy, clean environments. So you should have no reservation when you see a fresh item at a gas station, at a 7-Eleven, at a Love's, at whatever it is, to know that this is, in its own way, a fresh, locally prepared food in some way. I think that can be a mental break for folks as well.
Yes, these quick stops and 7-Elevens have really done a lot of their homework to try to provide food that is quality and local and fresh for their consumers.
Thank you. And Corrine, as a registered dietitian, director of programs and lecturer at Cal Poly with research focus in nutrition and aging and longevity, tell me a little bit about what the day-to-day on the front lines of chronic illness is like during the holiday season. Do you see a lot more flare-ups from people? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know that the holidays can be a little bit dangerous for diet. There's so many temptations and there's multiple celebrations, and just going to those celebrations can make people eat more in general versus non-holiday time when they'd, be at home. From a clinical standpoint and like chronic disease standpoint, I see a lot of people who end up eating bigger portions than they normally would. And this, especially for people with diabetes, often leads to spikes in blood sugar. Sometimes you see people try not to eat to save up for the dinner time meal, and then they end up with lower blood sugar during the day and then a big spike at night, and they kind of get a low, roller coaster type up down, which is not healthy for them and makes them not feel good. Sodium is a big one at the holidays. A lot of holiday foods are really high in sodium. Not everybody responds to sodium with high blood pressure, but some people can have high blood pressure due to high sodium diets. So that's something to watch out for. And, those are just some pretty typical things that I might see.
Right. And there was some discussion around the importance, and Dr. Nancy just said it before too, you do have to make sure that you are eating enough, like you said, not saving up to blow it on a particular meal or whatever the case may be. Can you talk just a little bit about the importance of presence when you're eating, especially around the holiday times, to not slide into maladaptive eating or potentially eating disorder, flare-ups, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the holidays, it can go a couple different ways. It's very easy for people to overeat at the holidays and kind of go into even like a little bit of a binge for that time of the year and just saying it's okay. It could also be possible for people to undereat or maybe over stress about what they're eating, if what they're eating isn't fitting into the diet that maybe they've been trying to follow up until this point, and then they feel really bad about it. And when we have, these guilty feelings around food, that's not a healthy relationship with food. We want to be able to eat our food that nourishes us, but also feel good about what we're eating. And I think, like you said, being mindful can help. I think with the holidays, for many families, there's a lot of tradition that comes with holiday foods. And maybe as you're eating those foods, think about like where they came from, who made them, what the ingredients were, where the ingredients came from, and allow yourself to enjoy all of them, but like enjoy them in moderation. Whether you think they're healthy or unhealthy, I would say kind of give yourself a little freedom to still enjoy the night, be present in the moment, and eat what you want, but not overdo it, and also not stress about it.
Yeah, and also not feel the pressure from your family to every time we go home, we have to have my grandma's deviled eggs, right? Well, like, you don't have to, you don't want to, and you don't have to have that thing that you've always had for years and years if it's not something that you enjoy anymore. We can create new traditions and have new foods and like make new memories and be more forward thinking. We had a great question from Patricia asking if y'all can discuss the role of alcohol and appetite triggers during the holidays.
Yeah, I mean, I think alcohol can work in multiple different ways. Generally, to increase appetite, it can signal the hypothalamus so that you don't feel as full. It can also reduce your inhibition. So maybe you're feeling more relaxed and you're like, oh, I will take that extra piece of pie or that, third or fourth glass of wine or whatever it is, where maybe you wouldn't be making those decisions if you were a little less intoxicated or had less alcohol. I don't know what Dr. Lynn thinks, but
yeah, that's a tricky one because our culture, our society uses so much food and drinks to celebrate, and it's almost become this accepted an icon of the holidays or a celebration, a birthday, a holiday party, a gathering. So to really stand in your ground and say to yourself, is this really beneficial for me? If I am already super stressed, is this drink or this happy hour, is it really going to serve my body? If I'm already feeling really achy, if I'm already having a lot of mental fog, is this going to help me propel me to where I want to be, which is feeling good, feeling happy, getting through the holiday season, boosting my immune system? Is it going to do it? Maybe, maybe not. If you have a lot of good reserves and you haven't been sick and you sleep 7 to 9 hours every day and you have not a care in the world and you're great, wonderful. Maybe a glass of wine with resveratrol is good. But if you're not, and you're already noticing your body and your mind kind of breaking down, you're holding on to that last straw for help, maybe that's not the best idea. So get really curious about what your body is wanting and asking from you, and then be really intentional with your choices. A lot of times, most people, I'm going to just say most, not all, alcohol does not do your body well at all. Your body has to detoxify, it has to metabolize it, and it taxes our inside organs. And just, layer that on top of not sleeping well, too much work, feeling overburdened, injury, all of the stuff, and it just kind of, domino effects. So get really curious and create a plan where you're limiting yourself, hold yourself accountable, and stick to it.
Yeah, and if it's not fun, it's not fun. I used to feel so much pressure to drink because it was supposed to be fun, right? And it wasn't really that fun every time for me. So then I was like, well, if I'm not enjoying it, then I'm not going to do it. I don't need to live in resistance, and I don't need to live in indulgence, and I can just kind of like be myself and make my own choices. And I promise you, if you don't want to do something and you don't do it, you won't regret it. You won't feel like you missed out on it. A couple other fun questions that we had. And you had a good point where you were talking about using protein powder with the nuts to change the flavor. Folks are concerned that if they try to cook a really healthy, clean meal for their family's going to think it doesn't taste good. So what can we do to build flavors without adding too much, let's say like butter, which adds flavor, or fat, which adds flavor? Like, what can we do? And you're nodding, Dr. Nancy, so tell me about it.
Oh my goodness. If I had a quarter every single time I something and they ask me, is this healthy? If I say yes,
it's good, yeah.
I push it away without even trying it. Oh, it's so funny. There are so many things that we can do. Eggnog, for example, we can use almond milk. We can kind of substitute these non-dairy, inflammatory foods to swap out, and most people won't ever even know. If you love a chili or something that uses a lot of meat, you can sub at least half of it for lentils. People won't even know. Super good for you. It's got tons of micronutrients. It's got tons of fiber, and no one will ever know. How will they know? They won't ever know because they're not cooking it, right? So there's a lot of things you can cook with spices, more turmeric. That's super anti-inflammatory for your body, and it adds a different kind of flair, different flavor. Cinnamon,
color.
Yeah. beautiful, vibrant color. Cinnamon is beautiful, and it's really, it's sweet, and it helps to stabilize your blood sugars. You can use that instead of sugar in a lot of your dishes that ask for dessert. So definitely there's ways that you can substitute without letting anyone know that it's healthy, because automatically people assume, oh, if it's healthy, and it's probably not going to be good for you. Whereas if you don't even tell them the ingredients, they won't ever even know.
They won't know. And Corrine, the question I have for you is, substituting some of these more nutrient dense foods, you've got your older folks coming over, you've got all the kids, all different types of things. What are some swaps that people could make to better accommodate someone who's aging or like experiencing arthritis or Parkinson's or something like that?
I mean, so for all of us, eating diets that are kind of anti-inflammatory can be really beneficial, but especially as aging, people are going to have more inflammatory type diseases like arthritis or, different things going on. And I think the closer we can get to whole foods, the better. So if we're starting from scratch in our kitchens, which maybe isn't practical all year round, but definitely at the holidays, people are willing to put in more time to do that kind of stuff. So starting from scratch in our kitchens, cooking recipes with whole ingredients, and adding a lot of those spices and seasonings that Dr. Lynn mentioned. A lot of those have anti-inflammatory properties, things like garlic and onion and cinnamon, cumin, curries, oregano, like all of those things can really be beneficial, not only in adding flavor, but adding health value. So I think that could be a great start. I think she's right with regards to when you make swaps, a lot of times people won't even notice. And if they notice this year, they won't notice next year. People's tastes can change over time. So maybe this year they're like, oh, that doesn't quite taste the same, but next year it's what they're used to having. And so you can gradually integrate changes. I mean, little things, I think recipes can easily be made half and half. Like, for example, if you have a traditional sweet potato with marshmallows dish, sure, make it, but just put the marshmallows on half of it. That allows people to at least choose the half that doesn't have the marshmallows if they're trying to cut out sugar or something like that. For pies, again, people might get sweet potatoed out by this, but I love sweet potato pie. It doesn't have to be a pumpkin pie. You can use other root vegetables to make pie, and you can sub in things. You don't have to do a full pie crust. You could do a thinner one or like a crumble on top. For things like whipped cream, I would say try to make it yourself if you're going to have it. Don't get the store-bought because it usually has a lot of added sugar. But if you have time, this can be really fun for kids. It's something I remember doing as a kid, like just whipping up the whipped cream from scratch. And getting kids involved in cooking can help too, because if they make it, they're more willing to try it, whether it's healthy or not. But if you get them to help you make a healthy stuffing or a healthy potato type dish, they're more willing to try it. And speaking of like potato-y type dish, cauliflower can make really, really good mashed cauliflower potatoes. You can do all cauliflower, you could do half and half. You can kind of change the ratio up however you like it. And it can still have really good flavor. But
I even had like this, I don't know who made it, but it was like a white bean, and it was white bean puree, but it was a substitute for mashed potatoes. It was incredible. I was like, this is pretty good. I mean, a little different, but and then this question comes from someone very near and dear to me. And so I really need y'all to put your whole hearts into this one because it will directly affect my holiday. And that is, maybe my mom is asking for women who are, in their late 60s and, going through some changes. Is there any foods that they could be incorporating, any thoughts that they could be having when they're preparing all this food, going through these stresses that are hormone balancing, that could be helpful to somebody potentially going through menopause, or even for other folks who are, have a hormone situation going on that they want to try and mitigate for the holidays?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So magnesium, B vitamins, probiotics, liver enhancing nutrients, omega-3 fatty acids, anything really good for the brain, vitamin D3, all of these micronutrients are really imperative. In iron, really good, zinc, really good for balancing and helping your body balance hormones. Not just that, it's your sleep. If you don't sleep well, 7.5 to 9 hours is what we want to aim for. If you're not sleeping really good quality sleep every night, you're not going to have a good day. You're not going to have a good week, right? really helps to build our circadian rhythm, our sleep and wake cycle every single day. If we go to sleep and wake up at the exact same time, our bodies crave that schedule. So what are some foods that will help us with our body balancing and our hormone balancing? We have eggs, and we have your sardines. We have pumpkins and spinach. Your dark leafy greens are really, really good. Brussels sprouts, your citrus fruits. A lot of these foods that are beautiful in color, vibrant in color, whole foods. That's what we're going to go for. Things that are high in antioxidants. They're probably going to be high in magnesium and your vitamin C and your probiotics. I know I talked about this, but probiotics lives in the gut, and your vitamin D is what helps your immune system, but it also helps your mood. So I talk about all of these things because if your gut isn't good, then you're not going to, one, have really good immune system functioning, and two, you're not going to have stable mood because your immune system and your serotonin, that feel-good hormone, is produced in your gut. So we have to take we should take probiotics to kind of level up all of the good for you bacteria in our gut, so we can kind of balance out all of the things that are good for us and not good for us that we eat throughout our holiday season and throughout the year.
That makes sense. And we did have quite a few questions about that. Best ways to boost your immune system through food. So you're saying like probiotics.
Probiotics for sure, on an empty stomach, first thing in the morning. You kind of reset your gut. And aside from probiotics, we want to make sure that we have a lot of vitamin C, rich antioxidant foods. These are your dark leafy greens. Just think of the rainbow and then eat according to the rainbow. Your reds, your berries, your orange, your citruses, your pumpkins and your squashes, your cantaloupes, things with orange, your carrots. Then you work your way down. Your yellows are your squashes and your lemons. You work your way down. Your greens, dark leafy greens, your bok choy, your kale, Brussels sprouts, microgreens, super, super rich in antioxidants there. And then you have blueberries, and then purples, eggplants, and anything else that's purple. So just really think about your colors, because the more colors, the more polyphenols. These are the really good for you antioxidants that will help keep your immune system up. And of course, your sleep and how you manage your stress. That's huge as well. How you move your body. It's a whole holistic kind of approach. You can't just say, what one micronutrient should I have? What is that one food that I'm going to take? What is that one exercise that I'm going to do to make myself, not sick? It's a whole kind of body system approach from the mind to the physical body and inside out that we have to nurture and be really mindful.
And we have to think about that. I think it's such a great point you make about setting boundaries for things too. If you're going to be putting your body in danger, or you're immunocompromised, or there's something already going on, and on top of that, you have to deal with the toxic family situation, and on top of that, you're dealing with fatty, rich foods that don't make you feel good. We're going to have to eliminate one of these variables to be able to make it through, because you don't owe anyone, even your family, your whole self in a way that's going to be destructive to you overall and make you lose track of yourself. Talking about the table and starting with hors d'oeuvres, and we're going to dig into the foods actually right now, because we have so many questions about that. Starting with hors d'oeuvres and snacks, somebody who's going into this holiday season and saying, I want to be hitting my macros, what should they be looking for in hors d'oeuvres? There's a lot of nuts and eggs. Like what do you think? What would you do?
I was thinking about this a little bit today. And of nuts, we're going to say nuts again, but nuts are super, super helpful. They are a true superfood. They're natural. There's a lot of different types of them. So people with different tastes could probably find a nut that they like if they don't like all the nuts. But nuts are rich in magnesium, B vitamins, fiber, potassium, all sorts of different micronutrients. And they have a really good macronutrient profile as well. They have protein and healthy fats. And it's easy to load up on calories with hors d'oeuvres, of course, before a big meal. And nuts are known to be kind of high in calories, but something that's been a tradition in my family is to have nuts in their shells. So we've had pistachios in their shells, and we've had walnuts in their shells. And this isn't something that I would maybe always buy, but again, at the holidays, there's people sitting around and talking and having more time. And it can be really fun to crack the shells of those nuts. And then because you have to do work to get to those nuts, you eat a good amount of them, but you eat less of them. And so it's kind of like a natural portion control system for the nuts. That was one of the things I was kind of thinking about. And then again, like if you can make your hors d'oeuvres, I'm going to copy, but make them rainbow. Something colorful that I like at the holidays is like pomegranate seeds. And a kind of yummy snack is like a little piece of endive or something with maybe a little goat cheese if you eat goat cheese, or a goat cheese substitute, and some pomegranates on there. So it's really colorful, but it's also going to be rich in so many micronutrients and tasty.
But it's not celery with cream cheese on it.
It's not celery.
Right?
Yeah,
it's
a little fancier, but it's also, people would try it. It's not too out there that, yeah.
Right. That makes sense. Now we have talked a lot about nuts, and for folks who have a nut allergy, what can they be doing if we can't lean on that?
That's a really good question.
Pumpkin seeds?
Yeah. Beans, legumes, seeds have equivalent micronutrient content.
Moving to the dinner table, Dr. Nancy, starting with you, what does your perfect plate look like?
Well, I'm kind of a special seed.
What is your advice for the normal person?
I'm different though, but I like to fill my plate up. And first of all, I don't like to have the biggest charger. Don't go and grab the biggest buffet plate and get your bang for the buck. Okay, so there's more than enough food. There's more than enough time to eat it, right? To kind of start to switch the vernacular in your head. But it's mostly fibrous foods. I love steamed vegetables. I love vegetables. So I will put as much vegetables on there as possible, and then little bits of protein if I choose to do that. And then for fun, maybe some sweet potato or something like that. But I love my fiber. I love my dark leafy greens. So that's what my plate looks like. But most people should have, really, really abundant amount of fresh and colorful dark leafy greens or a salad, and then kind of decorate it with something else like meats, but healthy, lean meats. Everyone's all like, that's not happening.
Turkey's not too bad,
It's easy. And I always think that if you sandwich all like the fattier foods with broccoli in between, it's like it kind of null and voids and rid of it. It's like, what do you mean? I didn't eat that. So sandwich it all in between your dark leafy greens. And then of course your healthy fats. So make sure that you have your omega-3 rich salmon or olive oil, drizzle that on top, or avocado. Avocado is so amazing. It's got I was going to say a million, but it has a lot of different micronutrients. But what's great about avocado is it can actually prevent your body from absorbing saturated fat if you eat it with a dark meat. So say you're having a hamburger. If you have a quarter to a half of an avocado with your burger, it actually prevents your body from absorbing up to 40% of the saturated fat from your burger. So every single time you have a burger, it's like you didn't really even eat it because you have the avocado. It's a good add to keep in mind.
That is incredible. And like we said, you can do whatever you want. If you're a new holiday, you want to have avocado, you never had it before at the holidays, like explain to them you watched this and Dr. Nancy said to do it so that we can eat the meat. Not so we can, but so that there's a balance there. I think that's incredible. Corinne, question for you. We do have a lot of folks who are asking about families who are practicing fasting because their religion requires it around the holidays. Do you have any advice for people who have to fast and then are breaking that fast as part of their religious celebration?
Yeah, I mean, I think fasting has a lot of benefits, whether people are doing religiously or health-wise. I think it can be really beneficial. When you break a fast, it could be a little harder around the holidays because usually they recommend you break a fast with something kind of lighter, So maybe easing into the holidays, and maybe if you're planning your holiday meal to be that fast breaking meal, offer to bring a few items yourself so that you're going to have a few like safe foods. For example, maybe you want to bring like a homemade soup that's kind of a lighter soup to have, or you want to bring a salad that you could fill your plate with. That can maybe help you go into that breaking the fast meal with some filling but low calorie items. So when you add the rest of the stuff to your plate, you can just add a little bit of each other thing. So you're still going to have this nice little bowl of soup that could fill you up, but also a lot of greens or salad on your plate, and maybe eat some of the traditional holiday foods as well. So you feel like you're participating. I would also say if you're breaking a fast, to watch out on the liquid calories. It's really easy to get a lot of liquid calories just in general, but especially at the holidays with alcohol or apple ciders or eggnogs. And the more kind of calories you put into your body after a fast, the more of a little bit of a shock factor that's going to be. So by maybe setting yourself up with a great glass of water or some sparkly water or something that you like, and carrying that around during the night, so you're sipping on that, that could help you eliminate some of those liquid calories too.
That makes great sense. The other question that we have here, do certain food combinations decrease the nutritional value of other foods eaten? For example, having caffeine or coffee or tea with a meal, does that in some way impact the nutritional value of what you're eating?
Yeah, the caffeine itself won't impact the nutritional value. Coffee does have something called oxalates in it, and that can impair with absorption of certain minerals such as calcium, iron, zinc, magnesium. What they found is people who add either a calcium non-dairy supplement, or not supplement, but say they add some almond milk or hemp milk or soy milk to their coffee that has calcium in it, so it's calcium fortified, or they add regular dairy to their coffee, it usually counteracts the inhibition by the oxalates in that particular cup of coffee. There are oxalates found in other foods, grains, beans, vegetables, and there is something called phytates found in seeds and nuts and whole grains and legumes too, that have similar inhibitive properties for like calcium, iron, zinc, magnesium. So it is possible that certain foods you eat can kind of counteract with the absorption of minerals from other foods. But I think eating a variety at different meals and not always eating the same food combinations can help you kind of steer clear of that. And I would say that's kind of good advice anyways, is just mixing up your plate from day to day, week to week, meal to meal. And hopefully you're not always overlapping those compounds of concern.
That is great advice. One of the questions that we get all the time, especially around the holiday times when you have to spend money on travel and presents and whatnot, is you have like this good intention to eat healthy, but then when you get to the store, it feels like it's so expensive. Does it matter if the vegetables are frozen or if they're fresh? What are some ways that you can stay on budget while trying to add these in? Maybe Dr. Nancy, if you want to start that one.
That's a really good question, because we are spending money on other things, right? Maybe travel, maybe presents. And a lot of times it's like, oh, you're trying to prepare really good, healthy meals, but this the way that our system works, typically organic and healthier foods are more expensive. So doing your research and buying things that are in season, and if you wanted to maximize in nutrients, then perhaps frozen. If fresh is not available and you can't afford it because of budgetary means, then frozen, because usually frozen, they will freeze it right at the height of when they picked it and when it was ripe and when it was maximum in its value. So frozen is great, is fine. And try as much as you can to stay away from canned. Canning process really does do a number on its nutrients. Usually it's heat treated, and it just has a lot of possible BPAs and things like that we don't want to put in our bodies, and metals and toxins. So frozen is always good. Dried is great. You can plump it up by adding water. Just add water, shake it, and it plumps up. And so that's really good as well. But coupons, wonderful. And if you have a Costco nearby or Sam's Club or Pace, whatever it is, you want to buy in bulk and plan. Of course, all of this, you need to do a little bit of research, and you have to put, you got to put in the time to make the decisions on what is going to be your priority right now. Is it my priority, my health? Then put in the time to search out what is in season, what is on sale, and do the due diligence. Maybe one time a day or one time a week, you set out time to go and grocery shop and prepare the meals for the whole week. But bulk is wonderful as well.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. I know when folks are first trying to buy fresh, I come from the produce world, and we price things by the pound. And when you see a pound of broccoli is $5, it's like, well, that how do I know how much a pound is? If you feel more comfortable and you want to line up and say, I know that this bag says $2 of frozen vegetables, go get it. That is not going to be a problem. There are also little scales around. They are fun to play around in the grocery store. You're not going to bother anyone. The man's not going to yell at you. Put the produce on the scale and see what you're working with. And that can be really helpful to you too. Also, don't buy things with good intentions. I think I might get my family to eat this. If they're not going to eat it, don't worry about trying to force it on them and spend your money on it. Just go with those safe items, especially if you're trying to stay within a budget and you're just introducing some new things a little bit here and there. All right, we're going to go lightning round for the next 5 minutes because we've only got 10 minutes left and I still have so many questions. So we'll just go Corrine and then Dr. Nancy back and forth, quick answers so we can get through some of these. First up, how far in advance can you make dishes and how long can you keep them safely afterwards in the fridge? Starting with Corrine.
Okay, so keeping them in the fridge, I think that's going to depend on how soon they got into the fridge after you've cooked them. Like how long have they sat out? So when you've cooked your Thanksgiving dinner, you want to try to get it back into the fridge within about 2 hours. And when you put it back in the fridge, putting it into shallow dishes, especially for hot things, that will help it cool down more rapidly. The quicker it cools down, the quicker it gets into like the safe zone where you're going to reduce foodborne illness. And generally, once it's in the fridge, about 4 days would be acceptable for how long you can eat it. If you want it to last longer, package it into small packages, put it in the freezer. It could last 2 to 6 months. And then preparing it ahead of time, it depends what it is. Certain foods are at higher risk for foodborne illness than others, like things with meat products, egg products, dairy products, et cetera. And things that are cut up, so those are going to expose their surfaces to potential microorganisms. So I'd have to say it really depends what it is on those. With those high risk foods, I would try to prepare them as close to day of as possible. But potentially for some lower risk foods, you could maybe even prepare them ahead of time and freeze them if they're still going to taste good frozen. For example, a pie, for example, could easily be made days ahead of time. If you wanted to freeze it, you could defrost it. It would probably still taste pretty good and you would be at low risk for nutritional foodborne illness.
Makes sense. But your charcuteries, your cut up vegetables, your peppers, all that stuff, don't pre-pep and put them in the fridge because 1, they will wilt, and 2, that's where we get into the danger zone.
Yeah.
Dr. Nancy, is it more nutritious to eat natural sugar versus sugar substitutes?
Yes. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about all the times I went opened it up and I did the smell test. I don't really know if it's good. I'm like, you mean all those times? All right. Sugar substitutes are really tricky for the body because if it doesn't really change your blood glucose, your brain still thinks you're eating something super, super sweet, right? But nothing's happening in the body. So it kind of really wrecks your intestines and it kind of your body a real big service. So yes, natural sugar, of course. And it really depends on your own body. Your body cannot be just like someone else's body. Some white bread to you might spike your blood sugar. And if you're diabetic, pre-diabetic, that's not really good, right? But another person can have zero effect. So it really depends. You got to know your numbers. You got to know what kind of foods affect you. That being said, in moderation, you just don't eat the whole entire bag of Oreos. Be in moderation, but just know how you feel. If you are just like catatonic and you're falling asleep after 15 minutes of drinking something or eating something that has a lot of sugar content that's natural, maybe that's just too much. And a way to help balance your blood sugar is to eat it with something else that will sustain your body, like complex carbs or a protein or something like that. And then, of course, walking 10 minutes will also help stabilize your blood sugar and your energy. So if you eat something sugar laden, even if it's simple sugars and it's natural, walk. Just move your body. It doesn't have to be vigorous. Just walk. Keep your body moving a little bit, 10 minutes, and it'll help better stabilize your blood sugar.
That makes great sense. Corrine, food freedom is a hot topic and many health coaches and dietitians are advertising, but there's also a lot of folks who are very disappointed if they gain weight during the holidays. What's your take on food freedom and maintaining healthy weight?
Yeah, I mean, I do think people should be able to eat what they want, but
Mhm.
I also know that the holidays are notorious for weight gain. And sometimes that can be really disappointing for clients and set them back.
Mhm.
So I hate to be cliche and say moderation,
And
but
moderation.
I think setting goals ahead of time and having a backup plan can help you go into the holidays well. Maybe have a goal. I'm going to get one plate at dinner. I'm going to put whatever I want on it that I enjoy, and then I'm going to be done with it. You know what I mean? Or I'm going to drink one drink and I'm going to enjoy it, and then I'm going to be done with it. I think giving yourself a little permission to enjoy the holidays can really help reduce the stress. And if you're stressed about what you're eating, that doesn't help your weight either. Um, Exercise can be tricky, but I do think doing some more exercise can help without getting obsessive about it. But
Right.
maybe go do the little turkey trot in the morning, or do your own version of it. Maybe it's walking around the block, maybe it's walking the dog on the beach or something. Maybe it's your own version, and just maybe kind of counteract what is going to happen with the food anyways, by maybe being a little bit more active for those few weeks.
Makes sense. Dr. Nancy, best airport snack. People just expect that you're traveling all the time.
I love salads, and I think there's always a fresh, leafy green something somewhere, everywhere. And I've been traveling, so I know that there are lots of leafy greens. So grab that, and nuts, apples, your bananas, lots of those things with colorful. Yeah, drink lots of water, eggs. I'm
Water,
gonna with the
compression socks, leafy greens.
same 5 things. Yeah. Stay away from all the other fun stuff that you have to
Yeah.
your bill.
And TSA
Totally.
will let you bring in stuff like that. TSA will let you bring in fruits. They will let you bring in a salad. Even if you had time to go to the grocery store on the way to the airport and buy one, you can bring that through TSA. So if you're worried about finding it, you could sometimes bring some of it.
Yeah, makes sense. Last question, answering with one book. Corinne, what recipe book that folks could be looking for, or cookbook or something that you lean on?
I have two that I like, but I'm going to go with one pot
Okay.
I'm going to go with One Pot Cooking. I'm a mom and I'm really busy. So being able to cook stuff in one pot is really, really helpful. And I think that can go to a lot of families, and you can cook some really amazing dishes in one pot, whether they're vegetarian or animal based. I think using one pot cooking also kind of encourages you to do a lot of variety. Like when I look at my one pot meals, usually they end up pretty colorful because they're a chili or a soup or like a stir fry or a casserole or something like that. So I'm going to go with one pot cooking.
Yeah, we're sheet pan cookers here. We're sheet pan roasters all day.
Same concept. Exactly.
Yep. Dr. Nancy, what's your go-to cookbook?
I have a Mediterranean approach, which I take all of the inflammatory things out of the Mediterranean diet, and I call it the Medi-American diet. And I write it in the book that I have, Breaking the Bad. So I have to say that I really, really like my approach to it, which is the anti-inflammatory Mediterranean, the Medi-American diet.
Love Medi-American.
Crock pot thing. I gotta look that up.
I know. Well, thank you all so much for your time and insights with us. What I heard was take a 10-minute walk to stabilize your blood sugar. If you're hangry, you're going to be even more angry with your family. You're looking for anti-inflammatory whole foods. You can do almond milk eggnog, which I was pretty excited about because eggnog is one of those things, it's like a special seasonal treat. Substituting lentils for half the meat can help. Using spices like turmeric that's anti-inflammatory can help. For folks who are going through hormonal changes, making sure you're getting enough zinc, vitamin D, iron, and taking time to rest. So many times today, we talked about what you eat, but also what you do when you're just resting and sleeping, and the importance of prioritizing that. Getting enough fiber by putting those fibrous vegetables on your plate first, and making them taste good by using seasonings as opposed to trying to flavor them with fats. It's really, truly just as simple as that. I have had the best time. I'm Bee Spear. I'm the host of Under the Desk News. I want to thank Dr. Nancy and Corinne, who you can also find online. We're going to send out all of their information, including where you can get a copy of Dr. Nancy's book and get on the Medi-American diet as well. If you have any more questions, you want one-on-one coaching, you'll be able to connect with them in that way. We'll also have a couple more of the details if you were taking notes along with us. The other thing that we have coming out in January that we've all been working on is this app called the Vitameter. There is nothing on the market right now that allows you can track your food, you can diary your food, you can food journal, but there's nothing that's telling you, hey, you're really never hitting your vitamin D minimums. You're really never eating food that has enough zinc for you. And this is what it means, and this is how it can help you feel. So that comes out in January. We'll definitely send that to y'all. I want to thank you guys for having us today. Everything Food, it's always such a pleasure to work with y'all. And goodbye. Happy holidays to everyone that tuned in today and everyone who's watching this later. It was a great, great conversation, and I'll see you guys next month.